Hello, hello, welcome, please come in. It's time to resume our summoner-only journey in this, Final Fantasy V, where summoners are, spoiler, very, very strong. Will anything be able to slow down summoners enough to make this run any kind of challenge? Let's find out. First boss down, crystals acquired, and thanks to the modified save file I now have access to all classes, including summoner. And the first problem is that I don't have any summons. Understandably, they don't actually give you summons until you would normally be able to access the summon class. But that should be okay. Over to Tool to buy equipment and steal every single item I can find. Good news is that summoners can equip daggers for slightly better damage than rods. Bad news is you cannot buy daggers in Tool, for some reason. So, first item is to grind for some levels. I will need to beat 3 bosses before I can grab any summons, so summoners are going to have a slightly rough time here. First on the list is Carlibos. This boss is durable enough that rods deal basically 0 damage, so I'm really relying on Ferris and Galoof, who have knives, to deal any actual damage. But that is slow going. This boss can also paralyze, which I can't do anything about, and it hits pretty hard. Potions are decent enough for healing, though that will stop very soon. Okay, first boss down, and it's into the ship graveyard, in which I will be doing everything I can to avoid actually fighting enemies. I do not have the resources or equipment for this. I just need to reach the next boss and hope. And that next boss is Siren. In her base human form, knife attacks can deal okay damage, and once she switches to being undead, it's all about throwing potions for more okay damage. Siren is strong enough to one-shot party members, and even when she doesn't, she can deal heavy damage and inflict poison. But she does go down after 1 cycle. Then it's over to Carwyn. Here I can buy actual daggers for the entire party and pick up the free ice rod before heading over to the Northern Mountain. This is the last fight before I can actually get summons, and an ice rod will handle it immediately. I won't be relying on rod breaking much in this playthrough, mostly because summoners are already very strong, but it is useful here. And finally, in Waltz, the party can pick up the first 3 summons, Chocobo, Remora, and Sylph. In the basement, there is also an Elven Cape accessory, though getting it at this point in the game is always a bit spicy. Oh right, I can also put my party in the back row, where they should be. And now I need to deal with the problems at Waltz Tower, where I can finally demonstrate the power of summons. Sylph isn't actually that strong, but it does heal the entire party by a small amount based on the damage it deals. Plus, it's way better than basic attacks, so it is an improvement. And now it's time for the next boss, Garula. Remora isn't an especially good summon most of the time, but it does have its uses. Specifically here, where it can inflict paralysis. This stops Garula from attacking and counterattacking, which would normally make this fight pretty dangerous. So thanks to Remora, I can just spam Chocobo until the boss dies. Easy. Okay, one last errand. Now that I have some levels, it's time to unlock the first proper summon. In Waltz Castle, hidden in the back tower, is Shiva, flanked by some ice commanders. This fight can actually be a bit tricky at this point in the game, especially with how hard Shiva can hit, but Sylph deals decent damage and heals at the same time, making this much easier, and that is the first proper summon acquired. Time to take the Meteor Express over to Karnak. Actually, I should grab some levels while I walk to the town itself. Diamond Dust deals quite good damage on all targets, especially when I can equip the Frost Rod Shiva gave to up that amount even more. In Karnak, I'm briefly imprisoned, then freed, and it's time to do some shopping. A few rods will be essential to boost my elemental damage from the summons I will be acquiring throughout the run. I may need to do some rod breaking later, but for now the damage boost is what I'm actually after. Then into the fire ship, where rod-boosted Shivas are enough to absolutely wreck the random encounters here. They aren't even that MP expensive. Other than some healing items, there isn't really anything here that useful, so let's deal with Living Flame. Diamond Dust deals incredible damage. I do take big damage in return. Rods also deal no damage to prompt form changes out of the hand. Hey, Liquid Flame, you wanna maybe be humanoid for a second so I can actually damage you? Ma'am? Thank you! Seriously, 7 form changes, not a single humanoid who can actually take ice damage. I may have actually overestimated the power of summons here. I am getting kind of wrecked. Summoners can do a lot, but heal effectively is not really one of those things. Okay, there we go. That was spicier than I expected. Time to escape a burning castle, which is even easier than normal. For groups of enemies, I have Shiva. For the Gigases, which love to counterattack, I can paralyze with Remora. So let's grab just so many treasures here, and against the Sergeant, I would normally leave a dog alive to skip the Deathclaw fight, but you can actually do that the same way by just dealing a ton of damage very quickly. Huzzah! Over to the Ancient Library. Here, I get to face down my next summon, Ifrit. I still have Shiva, boosted with rods, for big damage. I have basically no survivability, but I don't need any when I'm dealing that much damage. Ifrit has been acquired. This gets me through the rest of the Ancient Library to our old problem, Byblos. Byblos does counter every attack with annoying nonsense. On the other hand, Ifrit deals a lot of damage, and the fight is over very quickly. Byblos never even dealt any actual damage, which is pretty typical. Mid has been rescued, back to Karnak, and now I have a boat. And now I have lost my boat. Ooh, Crescent has better armor? That's good. Hello, Chocobo, time to fly. And my first destination is not the Ancient Library. Instead, it's over to Istri, because in the forest to the east of here, I can encounter Ramu. Beat him up for a bit, and I will unlock my third elemental summon. Now I can head back to the Ancient Library, then to the desert to face the next boss. This sandworm is tailor-made to stop all target magic, which is very annoying. Fortunately, this is still pretty early in the game, so Sylph can deal adequate damage to get through this fight. It certainly is not fast, though. Through the desert, spamming Shiva, and it's into this ruined town to be tricked into a pit trap, then warped back to Crescent Island. There's an airship, it's next boss time, Greyclaw, who is basically Carlobos, but I have summons this time, and 2 removes is all it takes. It feels very good to have actual damage to unleash. Anyway, Ruined Town is now flying in the sky. To get up that high, I need Adamantite. So, to Galoof's Meteor for a boss fight against the Adamantoise. Adamantoise takes okay damage from Shiva. It's enough to just spam and that is the fight. The airship is upgraded, time to fly into the sky to deal with the floating town's annoying defenses. They're less annoying than normal thanks to rod-boosted Ramu, but if the rocket launchers get off a hit, they can still be annoying. They don't, which is great. And now to heal up because it is big cannon time. And my plan here is to just spam Ramu. It deals good damage and I don't really have a plan B. This gets me through the 2 launchers before they can inflict uld, which is always nice. Now it's just a question of can I kill the cannon itself before it kills me? The cannon does have a lot of HP. On the other hand, Ramu is dealing very good damage. The cannon doesn't even fire once. With the cannon destroyed, this next section could be a bit spicy. The Ronka ruins themselves are not actually that dangerous. Summoners can just spam cast their way through random encounters very easily. No, the real problem is waiting at the end of the ruins, the Archeoaevis. Phase 1 of the fight is not the problem. Archeoaevis is vulnerable to magic, and while it does have a shifting elemental weakness, it's pretty easy to manage this by paying attention to the subtle flicker when it switches forms. No, the actual problem comes when it dies and is reborn via the crystal. In this phase, the boss is immune to all elements and highly resistant to magic. And stupid me, I sold all my non-rod weapons. If I get really lucky, I can get a fat Chocobo summon, which deals okay damage. The chance of that happening is pretty low. Yeah, okay. Gonna need to pivot my strategy a bit. First on the list is just leveling up a bit. The power of summons means I have not been leveling as much as I really should have been at this point. Then it's down to Jakol to buy Mage Mashers. These are the best daggers I can buy right now and should help with the damage in the final phase of the fight. Back in history, I can buy a Flame Ring for later with all the money I've accrued. I really wish I could buy high potions right now. That would solve most of my problems here. Oh well, back into the fight. As before, I spam summons to pretty effortlessly get through the first phases of the fight, then it's final phase time. Switch the entire team to Mage Mashers to actually deal damage and attack as fast as I can. My damage is not good, but it is at least damage. It doesn't help that my healing is also complete trash. Okay, so that was still a failure. Not ideal. Let's get some more levels. The Archeoaevis doesn't have that much health in the final phase, so I really don't need to deal that much damage. So if I can improve my damage by just a bit and be a little more durable, that would be great. Okay, some levels gained, let's try this again. My plan is unchanged. Summon through the first few phases, hope my damage in the final phase will be enough. I really wish the Archeoaevis didn't have Maelstrom. Blind is also very rude. Okay, I think I need to start burning elixirs. It's not ideal, but I can't imagine any future fight is going to be as tricky or obnoxious as this fight is. Okay, that still was not enough. I always forget how much of a wall this fight can be to casters. Let's try this again. I think I'm probably strong enough, but now I just need to get slightly more favorable luck than I have been getting. If this stupid bird dragon would just stop spamming Maelstrom and Blind, that would be great. Okay, you know what? Let's leave Ferris in the back row and dedicate her to healing. That should slightly reduce the damage my party is taking, and means I can respond to damage and statuses more quickly. The Flame Ring on Lena is also surprisingly helpful in this fight. And there we go. It only took almost an hour to get past one boss. Summoners, I'm gonna need you to step it up. Galoof has left the party, so it's time to head to the meteorites and do a mini boss rush. First on the list is Parobolus, and thankfully, I have multi-target damage. So I can just spam Ramu to kill them all at once, negating their Arise nonsense. Next up is Titan, who can be paralyzed by summoning Remora. I then just spam Ramu again. Earthshaker hurts, but not that much, and gets me another summon. Final boss in this here boss rush is Chimera Brain. Nothing fancy here, just spam Ramu until it dies. Super easy. and it's over to Galoof's world to get captured by Exdeath, so it's back over to Galoof who needs to save the day. Time to unleash Titan to finish this fight very quickly. Party rescued, time to bail and onto the big bridge to wreck enemies with Ramu. And another Gilgamesh fight. I could try to inflict silence to negate Gilgamesh's buffing phase, instead I'm just gonna spam Titan and hope that's enough. And it is. Big bridge thoroughly lightninged and the party's thrown across the world. Rigol has new knives, which almost certainly will not be relevant in any way. The new armor should be very nice though. South to the Mughal Forest, into the underground waterway, and would you believe that I can just spam Ramu to end every encounter? You would be correct. The boss at the end dies to Phoenix Down, and it's over to Mughal Forest for some unimpressive items, and we warp over to Castle Ball. And immediately leave, because there is nothing here that I care about. Werewolf Village, disappointingly, has nothing I care about as well, so it's time to head to the mountain path. And here is the next summon on the recruitment list. The recruiting golem is a bit more complicated than prior summons, because I'm looking for a very specific encounter in the open areas of this map. Here we go. In this fight, Golem is in trouble and needs to be rescued. First problem, I almost exclusively have all-target magic. Sylph is also out because these enemies are both undead, Chocobo deals bad damage, physical attacks deal worse damage somehow, and Golem takes a lot of damage and needs to not die here. I did buy a bunch of high potions while I was in Ball, but those don't heal a ton. So my actual plan is to very carefully cast Titan for big damage, then spam high potions to heal Golem up from Titan, and the damage the enemies are dealing. This is not a quick process because I really have to be careful, but it is still faster than basic attacks. And there we go! Golem. Golem blocks physical attacks up to an HP value based on the caster's level, which will be very useful for physical damage dealing bosses. Anyway, next boss is the Dragon Pod. This boss summons little flowers to be obnoxious. Titan doesn't care and fully wipes the field every time I cast it, so that was easy. Back to Castle Ball, and I now have a dragon. Then over to Guido's Cave, which is immediately sunk beneath the ocean, and it's now boat fight time. Which means another Gilgamesh fight. My hope here is that I can deal enough damage fast enough with Titan to just end the fight, but sadly it doesn't work. Hi, Enkidu. Anyway, I'm gonna keep spamming Titan. Enkidu is immune, but the damage is way better. Once Gilgamesh dies, I switch to the much weaker Ramu to finish off Enkidu and end the fight. Submarine time into the barrier tower. I wonder if summoners can take out the dragons here. They can. Neat. Anyway, boss time. Atomos immediately kills Ferris with Comet, which is typical, so I can then just spam Titan. Atomos mostly does nothing but drag a character closer while someone is dead, and that gives me more than enough time to finish the fight by just spamming Titan again. Another easy win. Submarine acquired, time to head through Guido's Cave. As usual, nothing here can stand up to my many summons. At the end, Guido gives me the Guardian branch, but instead of heading to Moor, I need to head through this cave and into this forest area, because a random encounter here is this, the Catoblepus. Another summon to acquire. It counters with stone when hurt, but also has like 12 HP or something, so that is another summon acquired. Now it's time for more. The armor shop here has some exciting new armor. The weapon shop has air knives, which boost wind damage, which will be relevant in a little bit. Into the Forest of Moor. There is nothing especially interesting here as far as items go, and it's time for the crystal boss fight. First thing to check is, what does my damage look like? Good, but not great. So, the play here is to use Titan to carefully reduce the crystals down to low enough health that I can then cast several in sequence to finish off 3 crystals at once. And that does indeed work. Slight problem is that the last crystal absorbs earth, and my most damaging summon I can use is Ifrit, which is not that strong. I guess I really have no choice but to spam Ifrit and hope I can take out the crystal before it kills the party with Earthshaker. And it works! Okay, that was definitely one of the faster crystal wins. Galoof leaves the party, Kryl joins the party, and it's time to run through Exdeath's castle and... not sure exactly how I got stuck like this, but I guess we'll just reset and hope the autosave works. Fantastic. Anyway, next boss time, and it's not Exdeath yet, because there is another summon I need to acquire. Carbuncle. Carbuncle casts 3 spells in its offensive phase, then switches to a healing phase that makes it vulnerable to stone. And that ends the fight. Carbuncle acquired, I remember to skip the Gilgamesh fight, and that means it's big boss time, Exdeath. And this fight should be a little easier than normal. Golem will help by negating Exdeath's physical attacks, meanwhile Carbuncle will prevent a lot of Exdeath's spell casting. The real problem with this fight is Exdeath has really high defenses. Titan is my strongest spell and it is dealing so little damage. Exdeath can also heal himself, which is not ideal. He also has strong spells that bypass Reflect, like Zombie Breath. Good news though, level 3 Flare is reflectable and deals more damage than I will deal in this entire fight. Defeating Exdeath is really a fight of attrition. Defensive summons combined with a full stock of high potions means I can last a while, but I just have no damage. Thank goodness for level 3 Flare. Without that damage, this would have taken forever. I wish Ethers restored more MP, and that I had bought more of them. The real goal here is to get to the final phase of the fight. Once there, Exdeath starts attacking twice in one turn, and he often uses those attacks to cast Tier 3 Black Magic. These reflect back and deal more damage than I can deal. With my limited stock of Ethers and limited healing, my main goal in this phase is to just make sure that I have enough MP to continue to recast Carbuncle and Golem as needed. Exdeath, can you please cast magic more frequently? Thank you. Finally, Exdeath is defeated. And that means we're into the merged world, and Kryl and Bartz are on their own. Retrieve Boko from the Pirate's Cave, then fall into a hole and fight the Antlion. Ramu deals okay damage, so I'll just spam that constantly. Huh, why does Bartz have so little MP? Did I not heal? Anyway, Antlion runs, Ferris rejoins the party, and it's over to the Ancient Library. Then into the desert, destroy some gargoyles, who aren't immune to Titan. Guess those wings are decorative. Into the pyramid, my goal is to get through here as quickly as possible. I will come back later for the items once Lena has rejoined the party. At the top of the pyramid, there is no boss, and I can grab the first tablet. Then a boss, Melusine. Melusine starts the fight weak to fire, so Flame Rod boosted Ifrits can deal a lot of damage. Not as much damage as I'd like, because Ifrit's damage has started to fall off, but it's still pretty good. I don't even manage to kill her before she barrier shifts, so now I can start spamming fire again. Okie dokie. And that's the fight. I was like one Ifrit short. Oh well, Lena is back, I have my airship, and my first stop is back in the pirate's hideout where I can grab my next summon, Sildra. Ferris's Sea Beast companion is now a summon, and it's Wind Element, so its damage is boosted by the air knives I picked up in more. Next, it's over to the Sealed Castle to grab the Assassin's Dagger for no real reason, and the Magus Rod, because it's fine. And the Sage Staff, because I had to pick a third item. And my final stop off, before I start to really dive into the endgame, will be the Town of Mirage. I can grab the Thief Knife from this barrel for mug access, then locate the Black Chocobo, and finally buy the best summoner armor in the game. Nearly ready for endgame, I just need to sell a lot of stuff because I want Hermes sandals. Auto haste is just too strong to pass up. And it's time to complete all the things I've been skipping. First, it's back to the Pyramid of Moor to grab all the treasures. And yeah, Sildra is demonstrating that it is, indeed, a top tier summon. It is kind of baffling that the attack is Breathing Lightning, called Thunderstorm, and yet it deals wind damage. Interesting. And now I have a lot of other errands to run because summoners need all the summons. I mean, they don't, really at all, but we'll get to that. For now, it's time for summons. First on the list is to fly the Black Chocobo to the desert to access North Mountain and face down Bahamut. I could wait, but I want all that power. First, I set up Carbuncle and Earthen Wall to negate physical attacks and Reflect. Huh, Reflect doesn't have a super long duration, does it? Guess I'll need to be a little bit more careful to make sure that it is still up. Oh wow, Thunderstorm is actually dealing really high damage. I guess I should just attack and refresh Reflect occasionally to make sure it's still up for Mega Flare as needed. Bahamut does have Maelstrom, but that's the only attack he uses before a final Mega Flare reflects max damage back at him. Okay, I have the strongest summon in the game. There's probably no reason to get the remaining summons, but I'm definitely not going to do that with any other class, so I might as well get them here. Despite all the extra work it requires, but let's gloss over a lot of this optional content because, bluntly, summoners wreck everything in this game going forward. So, the boss of the Island Shrine is the Wendigo. It counters all target magic with Frost. I have the Flame Ring I bought earlier that was my backup against the Crystal boss if spamming Titan hadn't worked. So, I just spam Bahamut and ignore its counterattacks. Most of my party dies, but so does the boss. Next up is the Fork Tower. I bought a bunch of rods and Karnak to deal with the Minotaur fight because no summons allowed, so I needed other ways to deal comical amounts of damage. And then Omniscient is a joke because I have Carbuncle. Also, I've switched back to using Sildra for damage because it deals almost the same amount as Bahamut, thanks to the Air Knife boost, and costs half the MP, which means Bahamut is actually not that useful to me, unless I run into something that resists wind damage, which could happen. Fork Tower destroyed, and I can... Oh, right, I should grab Odin. That doesn't even require the submarine, I just have to head through this cave into the basement of Castle Ball. This fight is on a timer, which could be scary, given the casting time of summons, but the timer pauses while you're in a menu, so while Bahamut is blasting, I can just be in a menu with the last character. And that was super easy. Next, it's into Istory Falls, murder the gargoyles, murder everything in my way, and it's Leviathan time. Leviathan is weak to lightning, but Ramu is too weak to use, and despite Odin's Gungnir and Bahamut's Mega Flare having higher power values, they deal basically the same damage as Thunderstorm for a lot more MP. So Thunderstorm it is. Turns out grabbing any summons other than Sildra in the merged world was a waste of time. Ow. Okay, that's not ideal. Leviathan actually hits pretty hard. Leviathan is also weaker than Bahamut and Odin, and water damage is not boosted by the Magus Rod, so there's no reason to grab Leviathan at all. It's just worse than Sildra or Bahamut in basically every way. Goodbye. I do still need to pick up the magic lamp for Neo Exdeath though, which is kind of funny that it's still important, even for summoners. As you might expect, we're also going to go through the bosses in the Rift fairly quickly, because summoners have not had a decent challenge since Archeoaevis, and I'm not really expecting that to change. Summoners are just too strong. I do wish I had better healing, but that's okay. First boss on the list is Califisteri. Carbuncle will lock Callow into casting worthless support spells onto my party to reflect back at her. She also doesn't counter summon magic for some reason. Really confused on that, since she counters basically everything else. Oh well, easy win. Next up is a Panda. This is a slightly scarier fight because it does usually counter summons. On the other hand, Drain is very weak, physical attacks get negated by Golem, and all its other magic is negated by Carbuncle. Thank you, Sildra, for dealing enough damage to keep this fight easy. I like having the save point here for convenience, so let's also take out Azul Magia. Does Off Guard affect spell damage? Huh, it looks like it might. I seem to be dealing more damage, so thank you, Azul Magia, for making this fight even easier. The one downside of summons is summoning constantly is expensive. Good thing I have cottages. Okay, Catastrophe. This fight can be scary. Earthshaker does deal a lot of damage very quickly. However, so do I. Okay, who is next on the Get Wrecked by Summons train? 6,000 damage? What? Halicarnassus counters summons? I did not know that. Interesting. He's normally a nothing fight. I'm genuinely kinda shocked. Okay, can I negate that damage with Golem? No, it's not a physical attack. Well, this is unexpected. This will actually take some work. I mean, not like a lot of work. It's still Halicarnassus. I just use Sildra, revive the party member he attacked, and then summon again. It is a more interesting fight than I expected, but I expected nothing, so that wasn't hard to achieve. Next up is Twintania. As is normal, I just need to keep my party healed up in the first portion of the fight. Then, once Twintania starts to charge Giga Flare, I have like 8 different ways to kill it. Odin is using Gungnir here. Interesting. Oh well, thank you, Assassin's Knife. And that is actually all the required bosses in the Rift, taken out in what seems to be record speed. I'm going to do a little bit of grinding because I am a little bit under-leveled to take out the final boss. Maybe. And would like to shore up my party's offenses just a little bit. Honestly, mostly for the first half of the fight. Okay, time to take out Exdeath. Why doesn't Bartz have haste? Oh, stupid Protect Ring. No, auto haste. Always auto haste. Okay, 3,000 damage per Sildra, that's pretty good, and I'm just gonna spam this. Ideally, I can finish this fight before I throw my computer out the window because this jerk won't stop using White Hole. Oh, I should also cast Golem. Exdeath doesn't really use that many physical attacks in its first form, but Neo Exdeath has some really damaging physical attacks that I will want to be immune to. I also don't need to worry about MP, because I'll probably need elixirs to heal anyway, which will solve HP and MP. And good. Through Exdeath with not a single meteor. That's what we want. First up is to use the magic lamp 3 times. This deals pretty good damage to all segments, and Odin can kill the back portion. Then use Catoblepus on the bottom segment to take it out in 1 summoning, which was actually pretty lucky. And now it's just spam Sildra and hope I can kill both segments before they start with the nonsense. I do need to actually start using some elixirs just to restore MP, because so far Neo Exdeath hasn't actually dealt any damage to me thanks to Golem, which is very funny. Yeah, it turns out Golem was absolutely an S-tier summon in this game and blocks all of Neo Exdeath's physical attacks, and wait, that was it? He's dead? Okay, Neo Exdeath didn't deal any damage to me at all. I knew that was going to be easy, but wow. And that was Final Fantasy V, beaten with only summoners, and that went about as I expected. A few slightly more difficult areas, and then just a sweep through the rest of the game. Summoners are way too strong in Final Fantasy V, and it really shows here. But that's okay, not every run has to be super tricky. But I will have more to say about that in the summary video, out in a few weeks. I did want to shout out that I do have a Patreon, linked in the description. I spend a lot of time making these videos. So, if you enjoyed the video, want to support the channel, and are financially stable enough to do so, that exists. No pressure though, this channel is free to enjoy for everyone, and will remain that way. For now, if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you'd like to see more of this, feel free to subscribe. Hey, maybe leave a comment if you have something you'd like to say. But whatever you decide to do, have a safe trip home.